Hello and welcome to another tutorial of Microsoft Azure. Today I would like to talk about Azure Policy. So what exactly is Azure Policy? To best describe that, let's go to the Microsoft website. Azure Policy helps you to enforce organizational standards and to assess compliance at scale. What does this mean? Each organization has its standards. Let's say, for example, your company is in a specific location. Let's take an example that your company is in the United States of America, and your data should not leave the United States of America. All your resources that are deployed will be deployed in the USA, and that is your compliance. Tomorrow, if you try and deploy a resource in XYZ country, it will fail because there is a policy stating that your resources has to be deployed in the USA. Like I said, Azure Policy evaluates resources in Azure by comparing the property of those resources to business rule. Your business rule, for example, would be an allowed location. A business rule, for example, would be that each resource should have a specific tag, and so on. There are thousands of rules that you can have in Azure, and I'll go through a few examples as well in this video. Let's move on to my dashboard. And in my dashboard, I have created a VNet resource group, and I have a virtual network in that. And I've also created a network watcher resource group as well. So let's move on to Azure Policy. And this is the default policy, which obviously I'm non-compliant at the moment. So I will leave it as it is. And let's go on to definitions on the left-hand side. Over here, you can see a ton of built-in policies that Azure has created. Let's add a very easy policy for this example, for starters, right? Let's look at locations. And we have a policy called allowed locations. So it's self-explanatory that your resources will have only a certain allowed locations. So if we click on that, we can see the policy definition over here. This policy enables you to restrict locations your organization can specify while deploying resources. If you scroll down, you'll see that the effect is deny. I have an article by Microsoft that is opened over here, which is Understanding Azure Policy Effects. Now, I'm going to put this link in the description for your reference, but let's scroll down to deny. What does deny say? Deny is used to prevent a resource request that doesn't match a defined standard. So my defined standard is that I'm going to deploy my resource in a specific country. And if it is not deployed in that specific country, then my resource will not be deployed. For example, let's assign this policy. Okay, let's select a scope. So I'm going to select my entire subscription. I don't want to select a resource group, but if you want, you can optionally choose a resource group. I shall leave it as it is. I don't want to give any exclusions. Let's say I had an exclusion that I wanted to have my VNets in a different location. I can exclude my VNets over here, but why would I do that? That would make no sense. And I would go to next. My parameters over here, I would select which country that I want to deploy in. So I shall select Australia East for this example, because my VNet and my resource group is currently in Australia East. Let's select Australia East and click on next. Remediation, I will come back to this topic when I use the effect deploy if not exists and modify. I will create another example with the policy definition deploy if not exists and modify. Let's move on to the next page. Non-compliance message, you can leave it blank or you can say not compliant. If I can spell that right, not compliant. Okay. And let's create this policy. Now my policy has been assigned to my entire subscription, right? Now let's go and deploy another resource in my resource group called VNet. Let's try and create another VNet called VNet 2 this time. Virtual network. Virtual network. Let's click on create. Okay. And over here, you can see that it says policy enforcement. Value does not meet the requirements on resource. The field location is East US. I had selected that my allowed location was only Australia East. Even if I select Australia Central, I will get an error. If I go to Australia East, you shall see that I have no error. And that concludes part 1 of Azure Policy. In my next video, I will talk about the 2 other effects, which is deploy if not exists and modify, in which I will be creating a policy initiative and we will be grouping 2 policies together and checking its compliance. Thank you for watching. If you do have any comments, any feedback, I would highly appreciate it. Thank you.